Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
Today's episode is our annual Year in Review conversation with Laura and Erin. We talk about what interesting things we saw emerging in the health coaching field and in our own coaching practices during this last crazy, unforgettable year. We'd love to have you screenshot your podcast player and tag us on Instagram at Health Coach Radio. By the way, the show notes for this episode and all previous episodes of Health Coach Radio can always be found at primalhealthcoach.com/radio. Our show is proudly brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute, now an accredited educational provider with the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaches. This means that our graduates can become eligible to sit for the NBHWC credentialing exam to become a board-certified health and wellness coach. Check out primalhealthcoach.com/level2 to learn about our new advanced coaching course taught by me that will nudge you out of your comfort zone, launch you into coaching mastery, and qualify you to sit for the board certification exam. Laura will share a little bit more about what we teach and how at the end of today's episode. In the meantime, let's get on with the show, the second annual Health Coach Radio Year in Review episode with Laura and Erin. Hey, Laura.
Hey, Erin. How are ya?
I'm good. It's just us today. This is our Year in Review episode. It's January 1st, and what a year. It's January 1st, 2021. A lot of people are really excited that it's finally 2021. So I would love for you and I just to riff today on some of the stuff that came up for us this past year, what was interesting in the health coaching world and in our own worlds, in our own health coaching practices this past year. How does that sound?
That sounds awesome. It's been a crazy year.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. There was something really big that happened this year. What was it?
What's been the one defining thing that's happened in 2020? Oh my gosh, so much. Can we say COVID-19?
Yeah, we got to say it. It must be said. I don't know. As we're recording this, it's sort of like we're into second wave sort of territory, and it's kind of all coming up again. And now I don't even know what to say about it. Like, what is there to say? What can we say about it that is relevant to health, fitness, and nutrition coaches that are listening?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway for health, fitness, and nutrition coaches today is, as horrible as COVID-19 has been for so many people, if we kind of put our coaching hat on for a minute and we start thinking through what can we learn from this, is boy, what an opportunity this is as well for people that are in our space. You know, I don't know about you, but because I've been living this way, you know, living with a healthy diet, what I consider to be a healthy diet for me, an active person, you know, I try to do everything I can to try to keep my immune system and my body strong and healthy, that this particular virus wasn't particularly scary for me personally, but boy, did it strike fear in the heart of so many people that I know, loved ones, but also clients that have now realized, and again, they need help connecting the dots, but have now realized, oh my gosh, perhaps if I were broadly a healthier person, this is in the best way to defend against a virus like this. And by the way, boy, did we get lucky with this one. If you really think about it, with the fatality rate of less than 1%, it depends on what study you're looking at from time to time, but say broadly a case survival rate of 99.5%. Boy, are we lucky that we didn't have a rate of like 10% of the people that pass away or worse. You know, this was a huge wake-up call, a huge warning shot over the bow. So how can we as health and wellness coaches use this as an opportunity to educate, support, and empower people to feel less scared of what they can't control?
Yeah. And how do we do that without being kind of dogmatic, which I to be honest, have seen a little bit of in some of the echo chambers that I participate in, a lot of like sort of almost snarky language. Like, if we weren't so metabolically unwell, this wouldn't be a problem. It's like, yeah, true. Like the data on patients with 2 or more metabolic comorbidities, things like hypertension, diabetes, obesity, heart, well, all the ones that are kind of the diseases of modern age that are so epidemic at this point. It's like, I think we just need to kind of, I feel like using kinder language is kind of our opportunity here. I don't think we're gonna really support people into improving their metabolic health by adding to this sort of angry fear-based language. And I will say, like, as a coach that works in the metabolic space, and lots of us do, and you do too, my clients are coming to me still because they want to feel better, get well, be strong, be resilient. Not one of them has dropped the C-bomb while they got on the phone with me. Nobody's talking about, I want to make sure I'm strong against this virus or future viruses. They just want to be strong. And it's like, great. Yeah, it's the strong animals that thrive through all kinds of hardship, and so hopefully the health consumer, our prospective clients, there's a shift happening where we're beginning to take control of our health. But I still do see a lot of fear, and I see so much fear. I've got acquaintances with autoimmune diseases that are cowering in fear because they are at risk. They're one of the at-risk populations. At the same time, it's sort of like, well, what have you done to sort of begin to manage maybe the experience or the symptoms of your autoimmunity? Because some autoimmunity we know is sort of bad luck, bad genetics, and some of it is kind of inflicted or exacerbated by diet and lifestyle inputs. So that's where I struggle, because it's like, I want to be out there saying, hey, what if some of this was in your control? Because it feels like some people just kind of are really wrapped up in this fear identity a little bit.
Huge. You're absolutely right. And so what I see a lot of times in my circles is folks that are really wrapped up in this, and their level of fear and their opinion about what's right and what they should do changes with every conversation they have, or with every news story that they see. I think the best thing coaches can do right now is, to your point, get away from the sort of the angry language, right? Get away from the language around blame.
Yeah.
If you were just metabolically healthier, we wouldn't be in this. Okay. The fact, maybe that's true, but it's neither here nor there. This is where we're at right now, right? So we've got to take it from where we are now and start using more empowerment language, right? And working with clients to start to take control over what is within their grasp. And in many cases, I think a lot of clients don't realize just how much is actually within their control, because they've never experienced it. They felt out of control for so long. I don't know about you, but that comes up for me a lot in some of my coaching conversations. It's not something that comes up early in the relationship. Typically, it comes up farther down the road as we've had several sessions, and they start to have their own sort of aha moments that, hey, if I make this choice, or if I exhibit this behavior enough, now I'm seeing the actual positive consequences of that choice. And the light bulb goes off about just how much power and control they really have.
That, to me, is coaching in a nutshell. That's where coaching differs from teaching in a way, because I could sit with my client and make their eyes glaze over with a lot of teaching as to how all these, here's some diet and lifestyle changes we're going to do, and here's what it's going to do in your biochemistry, and here's what it's going to do in your metabolic health. But instead, as a coach, we suggest and encourage and co-create goals with our clients, short-term goals that in our mind, as the person in the relationship with the knowledge, we know that down the line, this client is going to feel better. They're going to feel more resilient. They're going to feel more empowered. We're not here to say, okay, day one, we're going to make you feel resilient. We're going to make you feel empowered. We're going to make you feel, we're going to boost your immune system. We're not saying this kind of stuff. We're just kind of teasing them along the path so that they can discover this and realize it themselves, which I think is really fun. And as I kind of touched on before, I'm not talking, it's, for me, talking about COVID is like talking about fat loss. And okay, like hear me out, because I know that's a really dodgy metaphor, or comparison, but when I get a fat loss client who wants to lose fat, we don't talk about fat loss from day one. We talk about, here's a step I need you to take. Here's a goal. Here's an objective. Here's a step. Here's a goal. And then down the line, oh, fat is being lost. Oh, isn't that cool? We did it through changing habits and changing biochemistry. And oh, what a cool thing. As a side effect, I've lost fat. And so the strong immunity that folks can achieve by making diet and lifestyle changes is like, it's just a nice downstream effect of taking back the power in their health and feeling good. So I just think as coaches, when we go to market with our messaging, maybe on social media, for example, we would probably serve our prospective clients better if we had kindness in our language and empowerment, to your point. And wouldn't it be cool if you could XYZ, rather than sharing all the graphs and sharing all the articles and look at this stupid article that says masks don't, it's like, I just don't know. This is probably one of my greatest crusades. I don't know who we're talking to when we say that stuff. Like, we got to remember who we're talking to in our marketing efforts, right? Each other or our prospective client who's very bewildered about all this health stuff and doesn't appreciate you adding to the bewilderment, health coach.
That's right. So many of us are so guilty of messaging to our own universe.
Yeah.
Our own little microcosm of people that we follow, rather than to the end client who at the end of the day is going to seek us out for help, right? You and I have said this many times. Our clients are not coming to us for health coaching. No, they're coming to us to solve a problem. And for many people, that is fat loss, right? For other people, it's more energy. For other people, it's a reduction in symptoms, a hormone balance. Although I would argue a client's not Googling hormone balance, right? Many of the women that come to me, the first thing they're Googling is fat loss. And at the end of the day, it's having a conversation about how hormones play in all this. Yeah. And also just a better relationship with food and all these other things. So, but the fact of the matter is I do believe, as horrible as COVID-19 has been, I also think it's just created a heightened awareness about health, wellness, and fitness broadly. And we should be out there taking advantage of it. Again, not adding to the fear, not going out there saying, I'm going to make you bulletproof against COVID-19. It's really more about empowerment, building stronger, healthier, more capable human beings. And, I got to tell you how liberating it is for me to not live in fear.
I know.
I
mean, and hesitating to go down any of these sort of topics, but the premier of my province where I live, so like the governor of the province, he's one of the only, I guess, premiers in Canada, or one of the only people in this province who is in favor of the focused protection approach, where the people who are at risk are very protected. They protect themselves. My dad, for example, 80 years old, COPD. Dad, guess what? You can't go anywhere. And guess what else? Nobody can come see you. Sorry, Dad. But those of us who are sort of metabolically well, resilient, we can carry on with our lives. And I just think that's, to me, that feels right. I understand that people are afraid of that idea. We're all supposed to be protecting each other, but it's like, well, what if the folks who needed extra protection protected themselves?
Right.
Then you get into the statistics of, like, what is it? 80% of Americans are metabolically unwell. So that's a lot.
Yeah. I think the statistic that I heard in multiple places
88.
is that 12% of the population is metabolically healthy. Oh my God. Like, when I heard that, I was blown away. I thought I heard it wrong. And then I went and looked it up, and I've seen it referenced in multiple places.
I know. Same thing. I had to include that statistic in our level 2 course curriculum. And I same thing. I thought I was reading it wrong. Like, wait, it must be the other way. Like, it must be 12 that's wild.
Right.
And the markers that they use to determine metabolic health are the comorbidities that show poor outcomes with COVID. It's just, it's heartbreaking. I think that, just to kind of like move through this COVID topic, one thing that I think that came out of this whole weird year that is of interest and importance to health coaches is, and we talked about this on quite a few episodes recently, is telehealth.
Oh yeah.
So this is the opportunity to build your virtual practice. I've personally been virtual the whole damn time. I've been virtual for 7 years at this point. I've never really had an in-person practice. You can do that if that's your wheelhouse, but you probably can't right now. So maybe start putting the wheels in motion to get your practice online.
Absolutely. So that kind of segues into kind of another topic for things that happened this year was I did have an in-person practice, not solely in person, but I had a lot of in-person clients when I was in Illinois. And you know what? I wanted to move, man, and I was hell bent on getting out of there this year, despite COVID. And all about kind of what's happened with that whole thing and the trials and the tribulations and the challenges that came along with trying to get a house on the market in the middle of all this, trying to sell it, trying to buy a house, trying to move, pack, all this other stuff. But you know what? With perseverance and determination and a bit of stubbornness, I got here, right? But with that, a lot of my in-person contacts, people that might have referred me other in-person clients, it's not going to happen. All of this needs to transition to virtual. So, I'm working with a friend of mine who's going to help me get that up and running. I still have clients that I've been working with virtually anyway, but now I've got to restructure the entire business. And I want fitness to be a big part of that. Because as you know, I've owned a gym for a long time but now I'm going to have to take that online somehow. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but what has me super excited is all the people that we've talked to over this past year. I've got so many different ideas to do that, on how something like that can be accomplished remotely. And it can be done less expensive. It can broaden my reach and the people that I have access to and the more people that I can help. So I agree with you. I mean, It's amazing to me just how much we can actually do without being face-to-face.
So 2 things. First of all, the health consumer, which is what we refer to as the person who's becoming our client. And that health consumer might be a health coaching client, might be somebody who's looking for a fitness program, could be anything. The health consumer is so much more literate to seeking out online solutions now for fitness specifically. I think like the fitness world, online virtual fitness world is such an opportunity right now. People are just kind of out there like looking for some fitness leader, not even an influencer, just a leader, somebody who's leading a workout that lands with them. I like this person. I like this workout. This is the kind of workout I want to do. This is the kind of equipment I happen to have at home or whatever. So it's such an opportunity. And the second thing that you mentioned that I thought was interesting is that you've enlisted the help of somebody. Because I know that you identify as being not a technically advanced human, which is fine. A lot of people aren't, right? That's probably one of the greatest log jams coaches have, like with getting their business started, any business. Like, I don't really know how to manage the technology piece, so I'm just not going to do anything. So if you can identify that that's something that's not one of my inherent strengths, then you have 2 choices. You can either just stall out, or you can look for a solution. So you found somebody who's helping you build this out for you.
Exactly. I know that's not my wheelhouse. And when I first started out, there was a lot that I had to learn on my own in my first year. And it just took me forever. And it wasn't satisfactory to me. But you know what? I did it anyway. It wasn't really the product I wanted to put out there or the face that I wanted to put out there. But you know what? I had to get out there. So I did what I could at the time. And guess what? People saw it. And based on that, I had at least 2 friends who heard what I was saying, loved what I was saying, and wanted to help me. So they reached out to me to help, saying, you could probably have a better picture. You might want, and I was completely clueless. And they just offered to help, because they know that I'm passionate about this and that I want to help other people. And one of these guys is the person who's helping me now. I actually did a little bit of in exchange for him. I did some health coaching for him. And in exchange, he's helping me get the kind of website up and running that I really need to be able to do this and something that can grow. And then I'm eventually probably going to enlist the help of somebody else when it comes to video content and be able to edit that stuff. I don't know how to do any of that. I can learn, but I don't don't want to. I would rather, at this point in my career, now I've got the, at least some revenue that I could use to put aside to have somebody else do that for me, so that it actually looks nice and it looks professional.
Yeah.
Great. But the moral of the story there is, gosh, just get out there, do what you can with what you have. And yeah, it's going to be scary. And I'm sure, like me, you're going to feel a little bit like, oh man, that's awful, but it's out there. It's out there. And what came across and what inspired other people was what I had to say in my words, and the fact that I wanted to help. And I think that came across to people.
Yeah. You just made me think of something. I am working with a friend of mine who is a health entrepreneur in a totally different kind of realm. And she and I will just get together for these work sessions where we just kind of work beside each other, and we're working on very different things. Like she does a very kind of a different thing than I do. And then I can help her with some things that I'm good at, like technology, and she can help me with something she's really good at. Like she's just a really good motivator. That's one of her great traits. So we were just chit-chatting as we were working on our computers about our big goals for ourselves. And I had thrown out like 15, 20 things I want to do in 2020, and one of them was a podcast. Everybody's got that on their list, right? It's like, maybe I'll do a podcast. I'm not super passionate about the idea of doing my own podcast, simply because I just don't feel like I'll have the time. I hate that I just said that, but anyway, that's a dumb excuse. So let's just put that out there. So she said, well, what's stopping you from doing that right now? I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to do it right now. I mean, we're doing this right now. I'll do it later. She's like, no, like what's stopping you from doing it right now? Like, just Google it. How do you start a podcast? So I did. And sitting there at a coffee shop with her, with our masks on, I started a podcast. You can do that in one day. And I was thinking about this. There's things you can do in one day. If you set aside, not even one whole day, I'm talking like if you set aside a chunk of time, 4 hours, you could start a podcast. You could build a website. You could start a blog. You could build a program. You could build an online, like a learning management system, an online course. You could record some workout videos. Like if you chunked out not even a long period of time, you could start something. But what we do, and what I was doing at this coffee shop was I was like, oh yeah, I'll just do that later. I'm not going to do it now. Why would I do it now? She's like, why wouldn't you do it now? I'm like, I can see you're not going to let this go. So I will do it right now. And I did. And guess what? I'm basically 5 minutes away from like being able to launch a podcast. All I have to do is record some episodes, which is kind of the easy
cool.
part.
Is that a 2021 thing?
It kind of was. Yeah. It's one of my objectives for 2021. But very kind of like fringe. It was like, I don't really care to do that. Like for me, a podcast is just like a blog. And when was the last time I wrote on my blog? Honestly, when was the last time I wrote on my blog? But here's what I do. I post to Instagram probably twice a week into my feed. And I'm writing those captions with a lot of care and attention. And guess what? Those captions are freaking blog posts. And guess what? Those blog posts could be podcast episodes. Like doing it anyway. Might as well just put it out in 3 or 4 different, and they could also be emails sent to my list. Like on my agenda is to email my list more often, because I'm really bad for that, because I hate email marketing. I hate receiving it. I hate sending it. But, get to my blog more, start a podcast. All these 3 things are content projects, but I'm already writing content because I'm posting to Instagram twice a week. Just repurpose it. It's already there. Anyway, so
that's the biggest advice. This friend of mine who's helping me with my website has said, is taking one idea, one topic, one conversation, whatever it is, and then posting it in multiple places. Do it as a video so that you can post it to YouTube. Then you can pull out the audio and make it a podcast. Then you can pay someone to translate it and make it a blog post.
That's cheap, by the way. You'd be surprised how cheap that is.
That's what he said. So, I'm all over it. So right now I'm in the middle of just getting at least the website up. Yeah. Then I can start putting kind of more content out there, and I can get my free opt-in. I got to figure out what I want that to be too. I've got a couple of ideas, but that being said, I mean, this 2020 for me was a huge year for change. I'm now in a totally different state around a bunch of people I don't really know, looking to continue my business. But the point being, the only reason I mention it is because I think part of the reason people are drawn to health coaching is they love the idea of having a private practice, their own business, and having the flexibility to actually build the life they want to have. These are conversations I have every single day with people when I get a lot of questions. What is like a day like for a health coach? What do health coaches do? What what does my morning look like? What does my afternoon look like? And my question for them, or my response to them, is always a follow-up question. Coaching tip, right? What do you want it to look like? How do you envision it? I always recommend people looking to move into any career change, right? Health coaching, but just being an entrepreneur in general, I think it's even more important, is to really ask yourself this question: is at the end of the day, what kind of life do you want to have?
Hard. It's a hard question to answer. I asked it back to my friend, the one who harassed me about the podcast, because what I want to help her with is getting more strategy around what she's doing, because she's kind of like all over the place. Mm-hmm. And this gal she's probably going to listen to this and be so grumpy that I'm talking about her, but that's okay. She's on her phone all the time. She's wheeling, she's dealing, she's replying to DMs. She's on a WhatsApp chat group. She's sending merch off to people. And it's like, why are you doing all of that? First of all, why are you doing all that? You should be untouchable. You're the leader of this brand. Secondly, is that what you want your life to look like? What do you want your life to look like? And she was kind of like, well, I have to do this for right now, because this is kind of what's working right now. And it's like, well, is it working? And what do you want your life to look like? And she wouldn't answer that question. And it's a hard question to answer. I don't think I could answer it. I think, but you'd have to sit down and you'd have to put it in your agenda to sit down and have like a strategy session with yourself. Like, what do I want my life to look like? That's probably where vision boarding and stuff comes in, but it's hard for people to answer, right? To figure out. I think that's why people ask the question, like, what does your day look like? So they can kind of maybe get a line of sight on what it might look like.
Yeah. I mean, before I jumped ship and left finance, that was a question I asked myself, and Brad and I talked about it. And we're pretty close.
I know, right?
I knew I wanted to live someplace warmer. That was really important to me. I really did not like the cold. I knew I wanted a simpler life. I wanted to have fewer moving parts. That's still a work in progress. I knew that I wanted my work life to be authentic to the rest of my life, right? I didn't want that incongruency that I had in my old career. Mm-hmm. I wanted the way I live my life to be evidence in what I did professionally, and to wake up every day with a sense of purpose. I don't like Saturday, Sunday, like I'm no longer just waiting for the weekend to come. That's not a thing for me, because I literally love what I do. And I could work every day and talk to people every day and love it. It's just become a part of my life. That's what I wanted for me. Some people want to be able to truncate things and have their professional life very, very separate from their personal life. And that's okay. But that's not what I wanted. And I'm pretty close to there, so that's kind of cool. It's just now I'm in this stage of, okay, I kind of got here. Now what? I got to get it all organized so that it's sustainable moving forward. And that if I choose to continue to grow, I can.
Yeah. Exciting. Very cool. It's kind of like you vision boarded it.
Yeah. And that's just, I guess, what I want to encourage more people to do, is to start from that place. Because so many people end up in a job that they don't like, in a career they never thought they'd be in, doing work they don't enjoy, grudgingly getting out of bed in the morning, spending time around people they don't want to spend time with, because they just sort of put one foot in front of the other, and they just sort of let life lead them rather than trying to design it and lead themselves. And it's more common than not, really, right? And I look at people like my son, who's 22 years old, who went into finance because he just wanted to make a lot of money, and you know what? He's in finance, and he was one of the few that actually got out of college and got a job in his field. But but these aren't the things he enjoys doing.
Right.
So it'll be really interesting to see where he goes from there. If he has an epiphany and decides to, not that he can't stay in finance and really do something that he loves, that really just really taps into his talents. Right now he's still learning. But I try to encourage all the clients that I work with. You and I have talked about how even though we're health coaches, a lot of times the conversations that we had with our clients really don't always have to do with food. Really, you get into the weeds with your clients. And at the end of the day, really the underlying problem is a general sense of malaise about their entire life, period.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be excited about anymore.
And that accumulates over time too. So hopefully your son figures it out before it's too late.
Right. He's just a prime example of, someone who will likely end up being my client in about 10 years,
Or maybe he'll wisen up and make, to your point, craft something within his current career that's really authentically speaks to him. I was thinking about goals as well. I kind of joked about vision boarding. I think I might want to do one. I've never done one before, and I don't feel like the arts and crafts type. Well, not anymore. I remodeled an RV this summer, and I'm not touching anything again for the remain until next summer. But so I was thinking about some of my goals and what would appear on that vision board. And it's like, I don't know what to put on it, because the thing that I want the most, what I want to get back the most is time. That's the thing that I'm really, really sad that I've lost so much of. And I want to get it back. I'm still young. I'm in my mid 40s. I'm going to live to be 120. So I've got like 80 years ahead of me, man. And so I've dabbled in hiring business coaches, and the reason for this is because I want to level up my business to another level, which when you think of it that way, it's like, so you're earning more money, but the earning more money piece is really so that you can liberate some of the burdens of time. Like I'm not driven by money, but I am driven by time. So I've gone through a bit of an ordeal this year in hiring a business coach. That was one of my big things this year that might be of interest to our listeners. So the first business coach that I hired, I don't even remember how I found this person, but I actually went to an in-person, this is before all this lockdown stuff happened. I went to an in-person session that this fellow was hosting, and he got about 20 or 30 people in the room and told his story of how he was he has this family-run business. He was put in charge of running it, and it almost basically bankrupted them. And he had sort of an epiphany, a marketing kind of epiphany, and then he was able to bring this business back to life. And now he's just making fat stacks, and life is amazing. And he definitely sold me on his hero's journey, and I signed up right then and there. I paid. Now I ended up paying for that in monthly installments. I'm going to talk numbers, and what it worked out to was $13,000 Canadian dollars.
Wow.
For a year. And what this relationship looked like was there was kind of a one-on-one component. There was a big in-person group, a mastermind kind of thing, where we would all get together once a month as well in a group. And we were working through our business. Now, where I struggled with this coach is that this coach specialized in beginner entrepreneurs, and I wasn't a beginner. So we were starting at the very beginning, which is awesome. Like the whole, what's your story? Who's your target client? What's your unique value proposition? I already knew all that. I actually don't need to do that work. Now, brand new entrepreneurs starting out, you have to do that work. You just have to, you can't not do it. So it's great for brand new people. But I found within the first 3 months that it was like, I was kind of twiddling my thumbs. Like, when are we going to get to the stuff that I can use? So fortunately, they gave me a little bit of a refund, and I got some of that money back, spun it into another business coach. And I found this guy, from what I heard through the grapevine of business coaches, he had been the coach of a really cool coach that I follow on Instagram. So it's like, this really cool coach trained under this guy who trained under this guy. So I'm going to go train with that guy. That's the guy I want to work with. I'm just going to go right to the top. So this guy was $13,000, which if you do the math on that is very expensive in Canadian dollars. And that was an upfront payment. And that was a lot. That was scary. But I was, I remember when I got on the call with this guy's underling, because I never spoke to this guy. He's untouchable. I'm not going to speak to him. Speaking to one of his under coaches, I was 100% convinced. I was like, yep, I'm doing this. Let's do it. Here's my credit card. Let's go. And I liked that feeling. I liked that feeling of just knowing like a coach, a next level a coach is what I need to take me to the next level. Like coaches really do need coaches. I know that's such a trite thing to say, but like I knew I was kind of at my wall. I was like, I don't have what it takes right now to go to next level. So I need somebody to help me coach. I need an expert. So I swiped my credit card for that $13,000 right out the gate, right, without even batting an eyelash. And long story short, this didn't work out either because what I had done was when I went to work with this up here big deal guy, I had jumped over these coaches that were actually more in my space. So this was like a health and wellness business coach. And I was like, I don't want to work with a health and wellness business coach. I want to work with like a really big deal business coach. And this guy wasn't working in the health and wellness space at all. So all of his content was for kind of like internet marketers and stuff. And I was like, this guy doesn't even know anything about my business. In fact, on the discovery call, the guy who I was speaking to kept forgetting what I did. He's like, yeah, so you have like a store? Is it a store you have? Like a restaurant? I'm like, no, I'm an online health and nutrition coach. Anyways, I got all my money back. Thankfully, I did manage to get all my money back. I said, this isn't a good fit. So then I vetted a few other ones. We've had quite a few on the show and they're great. They're just like everything that business coaches say. It's just awesome. And we can get so much wisdom from just listening to them and following them. So I followed quite a few. I went to a few live events that some of these folks were hosting. I was waiting to feel a connection. And then I just recently found a connection. So I just recently hired another business coach. And this is a bit different because this is specifically, it's a coaching / mastermind combo. And that's what I felt like I needed. I don't really need it. I do need one-on-one coaching for sure. One-on-one coaching is what I need. And I want to be in a community of like peers doing what I'm doing. But what I really don't want is I don't want to be in a group program where I'm like meeting on a Zoom session with 75 other people and I'm not getting any attention. I want personal attention and I want a community. And I also want this personal attention, this community to meet me where I'm at, which is like an intermediate to advanced level of business so that I can go to like orbit, right? So I found this person. I get some one-on-one coaching. I get put into this mastermind group, and everybody who is approved into this program is intermediate to advanced level health, fitness, nutrition coach. So it's aligned in the industry that I'm in. Yes. And big time know, like, and trust factor. I've been following this coach on Instagram for a while. Everything that she says, it's like that. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling this. This was much less of an investment, but again, I swiped the credit card without batting an eyelash, and I'm pretty confident this is going to be the one. But you know what? None of these false starts, this whole year of trial and error, none of it felt like a waste to me. Like I knew I needed a coach. I knew I needed to go next level with a coach, some kind of next level mastery of some sort. And so it felt right. And it's pretty fun to have those feelings because kind of what we touched on earlier, like there can be a scarcity mindset. Right. Like, I can't really afford to hire anybody to help me right now. Well, sometimes you get to a point where you can't afford not to. Like you couldn't afford not to get somebody to help you with your website because otherwise you weren't going to be able to recreate your business, your fitness business in a virtual setting since you sold a gym. Like there's a point where you can't afford not to. Right. And I've been at that point this whole year. And so I guess my finale pep talk is, for health coaches that are working through their business, trying to grow their business, you're going to probably need some help. And you're just going to have to open your wallet to that and trust that it's going to come back to you. I really do feel like it's going to come back to me many times over. I'm not worried about that. And what's really beautiful is I can see that I'm going to get my time back. Like I can see that this coach is the one that's going to help me get all that time back that I want.
That's so exciting. Congratulations. And thank you for sharing the first two failures. I hear this from people all the time, so afraid to invest in themselves because of this fear of failure. So first of all, you were able to get, in the first case, some of your money back, and in the second case, all of your money back. And most good professionals will recognize sometimes there's not a good fit and you need to have a reasonable refund policy, right? So go into that, ask questions but I just love the fact that you recognize this is where I want to go. And I know I can't get there alone. There's so many of us that just can't get there alone. Most of us can't. So we can get so far. You've gotten really far for the most part on your own, right? So have I, but now at a point where, you got to turn around and kind of reinvest in yourself. And this comes up a lot with folks that are coaching curious and they've been sort of stalking 4 or 5 different courses for a while, and they still haven't pulled the trigger because they're so afraid of, well, what if it doesn't work out? And that's such a nebulous thing. Well, can you define that? What is the definition of failure here for you? What is really the worst case scenario? And is there a way that you can sort of mitigate the risk against that? Because for so many people, the number one reason for failure is often in here. It's letting fear get in the way. It's not taking the steps and the actions that you need to take. And it's almost always dialed down to the fear of putting yourself out there. I hear it all the time. So kudos to you. Congratulations. I'm super excited for you. So what does having that time back look like? What do you think that's going to mean for you?
That's the part that that's the part that comes back to this, what does your life look like question, and this is an exercise that I've heard. I think even some of our guests, I think some of our life coach guests have suggested this. Write out your perfect day. Write out your perfect day, write it in the present tense as though it's happening. That's actually so hard. Because if you were like, oh, okay, so I wake up and I'm on the beach of my private island off the coast of Belize and I open my French doors, and it's like, it gets a little unrealistic. And it's not even about like material possessions, but it's like, I wake up without an alarm. I'm well rested. I feel amazing. I get up with energy. I'm feeling optimistic and excited about my day. I pour my green tea. I go for a horseback ride. Like for me, it's like my little hobbies get some attention that they don't normally get. And I still get to work because I don't want to not work. Well, part of me wants to not work, but part of me really loves the work that I'm doing. So it's like, that it's like, what parts of what I'm doing do I really love, right? What parts do I not love so much? I would like to get rid of those parts and really just every day just do things I love, which sounds like a cliche, but I think if we looked at everything that we're doing all day long, there's things that we do because we have to, things that we really hate doing. There's things that we're like meh about, and then there's things we really love. Ideally, it'd be like only those things that I really love are the ones I'm doing. So I haven't written out my perfect day. I keep trying. It's hard. I think if you just practice, you get better at it. This is that question. What do you want your life to look like? What do you want? It's such a hard question to answer. I know I want time, and how I fill that time remains the mystery because I have never had it up until now. So it's like, it eludes me, but what I do have is a great sense of optimism that I'll figure it out and it's going to come to me. And when it comes to me, I'll know what to do with it, all this new time that I have, and I won't squander it. That's a big fear that I have, actually.
I wonder how much of that comes from, and I shared this with you, but comes from our past background of spending so much time, so many work hours devoted to something that we did not want to be in, but we're trapped in, right? So this is, to a certain degree, part of where our own scarcity mindset comes in. It's not always just money, right? Sometimes it's time and this fear of wasting another minute, and I think that's something that we can share with our clients too, and sort of redefining this, because I don't know about you, but that's and I'm going to say it in air quotes, excuse I get from my clients about why they still continue to make choices that are 100% go against what it is they're really telling me they want for their health. The reason why they're not moving more, the reason why they're not paying more attention to their food, the reason why they continue to eat out all the time. It all comes down to, I don't have the time. And so here's an interesting question for you from that point of view is, as a coach, is it our job to help them figure out how to make a healthier, okay. So I have my own opinions here, but I'm asking you. Okay. So, because this is something that I know you work with, I work with very busy women. And it's, if we can't find a way to make this fit their schedule, it's going to fail.
Yeah.
Versus flipping this on their head and really working with them to feel empowered and realize they've got to change the schedule. Mm-hmm. They've got to change the environment to a certain degree, right? Because we know that, change or the inability to change always comes about through a change in environment. That's how things happen, quote unquote, effortlessly. Just think about how things have changed either for the better or for the worse when circumstances in your life, the environment that you're around has suddenly changed and you are forced to adapt, right? This happens with negative change, but also positive change. The problem is if we just sort of let this happen and let our environment, if you just continue to let your environment shape you instead of you shaping your environment, that's where we all get stuck. That's just my humble opinion. But I struggle with this as a coach. And I would love your opinion on maybe how you might work with your female clients. But it doesn't have to be female clients, people listening. It could be anybody that works with very busy people. Are we doing our clients a disservice by finding a way to just shoehorn a solution in? Or is that something that we have to start with in order to build the bridge to real change?
Well, I think that the final piece of your question is really dependent on that person and probably on that coach. When I get a client who, I find these super busy, high performing, high achieving people are quick to sweep things under the rug. Like, oh, I just need to be more prepared. That's what I hear all the time. Yeah, I just, it wasn't a good week. I just need to be more prepared. So I'll be more prepared. I'm like, yeah, sorry, we're not just going to let that one float by. What does more prepared look like to you? Okay, tell me about Monday. What does Monday look like? And they're gonna want to go into vagueness. Oh, Monday I have a work day and then I've got something after work. It's like, what? What is the first thing that happens on Monday? What time does your alarm go off? Let's go. What time is your first meeting? What's your commute? Like, I get into it with my clients at a very granular level and try to, because I think your thinking is right. Like, environment is probably the biggest needle mover. It's the biggest barrier. It's the biggest opportunity. It's also hard sometimes to influence environment. I do think sometimes it's just a little hard. So sometimes what I'll start with is like, let's work with the environmental inputs that you have that are sort of non-negotiable now, your busy work life, your career, your family. And I know we can find moments within there. You just haven't looked. So I'm just going to look with you. And a lot of times as a coach, I'm jotting down, I know my clients' day from the minute they wake up to the minute they go to bed, and I can find the opportunities for them to put in their supportive food choices and just kind of painting that picture for them. But it's interesting because the last thing you mentioned, this is kind of, I'll try my best to keep the story like relatively without giving too much information away, but I'm running a group program right now, and I have about 50 people in this group program, and a bunch of them are health coaches that are just in the program to see how I run it, which is totally cool. And one of these coaches posted that she's working with a client right now who, what was the scenario? The scenario was the client is asking for a meal plan. The client is like, the scale hasn't moved in 2 weeks. I just need you to give me a meal plan so we get the scale moving. And so this is completely out of integrity for how this coach likes to coach. She's like, I don't like to give meal plans. Also, I don't think the scale necessarily is supposed to move in the first 2 weeks. This client is, there's a disconnect in what we're kind of agreed upon. So I think sometimes we get into those situations with our high performing clients where they hired us because we help high performing, overachieving, type A boss people. I don't want to say boss babe. I hate that phrase, but boss people, because it could be men, gain control of their health and their energy and all the vitality that they need to be epic. But then they slide back into their old patterns. People slide back into their old patterns. That's probably a universal truth of health coaching clients. They're going to slide back. And a big part of what we do is like deprogramming and reprogramming. So that's why I don't let clients get away with it, because I think when they start with that language, like, oh, I just need to be more prepared, they're just sliding back into their old habits. It's like, no, we're going to put that right on the chopping block and we're going to pull it to pieces because that's what you hired me for. And half the time those conversations don't even revolve around food. They revolve around finding time.
Right. It's the one non-renewable resource. If you really think about it from the mindset of it's about priorities for many people, not all people. To be really fair, there are people who have very limited resources, very limited options available to them, I think to people that I know that work with very disenfranchised people, super low income people that live in food deserts, and that's an entirely different scenario. But there's a lot that I think that can be done to try to help create some more resources for those folks. But that's kind of outside of the scope of this conversation. For those that are coming to us and have the, I don't know, I guess the income to be able to afford to pay a coach to go through some of this, that's a totally different story, right? And it's definitely a disconnect around priorities, because the minute, and just a little side story, some people have heard my story before, but I was the same way. I don't have time for any of this shit. I was working a crazy job. I was a single mom at the time. Like, I literally, in my head, I had no time for this. But then eventually I got sick. Mm-hmm. And then I was forced into it. Something in my environment changed. Yeah. I got sick, and I was forced into having to find the time, make the time to be healthy, because my illness was slowing me down. Mm-hmm. Right. And so it's about priorities. Finally, I had to put something else on the back burner that is important. It's important, right? Whatever it was, I had to put on the back burner. But at some point, my health became much more important. The choice was taken out of my hands, and so it's working from the mindset with our clients on helping them. This is where we talk about finding those values. Mm-hmm. And using those values to find your motivation to create better priorities.
Well, and there's a cognitive dissonance too. And sometimes what I'll do with my clients, here's an example. A client will say, I don't have time to make breakfast. I got to go. I'm busy. I got to get to work. I got meetings. I'm going to need some kind of very fast grab and go breakfast. Like, I don't know, a piece of toast and a banana. It's like, okay, well, like, do you see how you invested in this coaching relationship because you had XYZ health and happiness and whatever goal, and how rushing out the door as quickly as humanly possible is out of integrity of that goal? Like, you wanted to take care of yourself, and rushing out the door in absence of good nourishment is absolutely not taking care of yourself. Like, there's no quicker breakfast on planet Earth than a piece of toast and a banana, but that is not you taking care of yourself. So you get to decide, do you want to take care of yourself, or do you want to get to work on time? What is actually more important? Because you invested in this coaching relationship for a reason. So it seems to me that taking care of yourself is pretty important. So can you agree that setting your alarm for 15 minutes earlier, popping some sausage in the oven while you're in the shower so you can grab the sausage and go, or something that's just generally going to nourish you more? Can you see how that's just maybe a quick step you can take in maybe that right direction? I think that there's a big time when we get into I think this is a rabbit hole and a half, but like, diet culture has ruined a lot of people's relationships with food. And they think, the most important thing is that I'm getting to work on time, picking up the kids on time. Everything else is more important, and I'm not. And as long as I just do what it takes to stay in my size 6 jeans, then I'm succeeding at life. And it's like, man, like, our definition of living has really become sad a little bit. So I'd like to bring my clients back to what it's like to live. I just talked to a client this morning who just moved to Andorra, which is a tiny country in Europe. Wow. And she said on our coaching call, she used the word afraid, fear, worried, probably no less than 3 dozen times in reference to pastries. Because Andorra is between France and Spain. It's got a lot of French influence. She's like, there's all these beautiful patisseries and bakeries, and I just want to go and have some beautiful food in my new country that I live in, some of this beautiful pastry, but I'm so worried and I'm so afraid and I've got so much fear. I'm like, what's that all about? We got to unpack that. There's just so much language tied up in our relationship to food and health that, and people like our clients are speaking to themselves all the time without catching themselves speaking to themselves in this way. Our busy go. Yeah. Mom clients or whatever they are. It's just, we got to get into we got to short circuit their self-talk a lot of the time.
Right. Oh my gosh. And it's interesting, and this segue to another topic we wanted to talk about, which was sort of board certification, because I think for both of us, getting board certified and building our level 2 program to qualify for board certification really brought us both back to the essence of coaching. Yeah. And that's what really that's all about. The coach that you were referring to who's in your group, that's like my client, is asking for a meal plan. There are some coaches that provide meal plans. And look, that's fine, but that's not coaching. That's just a subset. That's like another service or something else that you provide. But to that coach, if that just doesn't feel authentic to her and that's not something that she wants to be able to provide, she needs to have this strength to stand up and say so, and maybe have a conversation with the client around, why is it that you feel you need a meal plan? What do you think a meal plan is going to provide for you? What is going to be the benefit of the meal plan? Because perhaps we can actually provide the benefit without the meal plan, right? There could be another path there, and I had a friend of mine who has been able to lose some weight and kind of manage her weight by using isogenics, which is a sort of a nutritional shake program. And she's like, it just works for me. But she doesn't really like the ingredients. There's an ingredient in there she's not comfortable with. And so we were talking about this stuff. And what I was explaining to her is, I'm like, you do realize that the whole reason it works is because it's a meal replacement and it lowers your calories. Mm-hmm. Right? So that allows you to lose weight and it allows you to maintain your weight because that little shake provides you with some nourishment with fewer calories. That's what's happening there.
Right.
And it's like, okay, so if you're a little concerned about that ingredient, the benefit of that shake is that it provides you with some nourishment with lower calories. Why don't we just look for a solution that can do the same thing without that particular shake? Would that be beneficial for you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of tying to that. So, and these are all skills that you learn when you're truly focused on the art of coaching and how that relates specifically to health, wellness, or nutrition.
Yeah.
You worked your ass off to get this level 2 program up and running. What did you learn about? I mean, I know everything that I learned just going through the process of being board certified, but I know you went through a lot, both building the program with Lindsay and teaching it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And teaching it, I was actually the big aha, because when we were writing the curriculum, it was, all the motivational interviewing, behavior change stuff that I feel like a lot of us, we devour that information as part of our personal development. So it was, it's always good to reconnect to that information. It's always good to just have another read through of it. So being able to write the curriculum was awesome for that, because I got to reconnect to some of these concepts that I had maybe forgotten to connect to. But it was in teaching it, because it's a very experiential live teaching situation with was there 50 people signed up last? No, that's 50 people.
I think it was like close. That. Yeah.
50 people. Yeah. So we had all 50 people on every call every time. And what was amazing, we had this amazing interactive discussion. And so it was really cool for me as an experienced coach to hear what sort of new up and coming coaches, what their ahas were in connecting to the art and science of coaching. And a lot of the feedback we got was, wow, like it occurs to me that I spend a lot of time in this teacher-student paradigm. I'm the boss, I'm the teacher, and you're my student or you're my subordinate, and I'm in charge of the relationship and I'm telling you what to do. And even clients come to the relationship thinking that I just need somebody to hold me accountable, but that's not what coaching is. It is truly co-creation. That's one of the biggest ahas for me is a proper coaching relationship. First of all, is a relationship, not a program. And it's co-created with the client. So what's interesting about that is that, when you think about scope of practice, we can't make personalized meal plans. For generally speaking, it's out of scope for health coaches to do personalized programs, but if we're co-creating a program alongside our client, that's kind of a little bit different. Asking the client what they need, asking the client what works or doesn't work for them, and then being really nimble and being able to pivot rather than teaching, instructing. In fact, when coaches go through this program, they have to submit a coaching conversation for grading. And one of the things that I grade against is if you taught too much, you lost marks, that you can't just be talking at your client. I really do think that's one of the greatest ahas that people get in practice. And that's the thing, is that probably if you're listening to this as a health coach, you're thinking, well, of course you don't just talk at your client. Of course it's a co-created relationship. But when you practice it, be really honest with yourself. You might be teaching or talking at your client more than you realize you are.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of my favorite parts. And I'm in going through the process of teaching it, I have my coaching conversations are different now. I'm way quieter. I'm holding a lot more space. It's wild what happens when you sit quietly. I have a client right now that doesn't talk much at all. So I'm like, I'm also not going to talk much. Let's just sit here quietly, and one of us is going to have to talk. And then eventually she'll talk, and she'll start opening up with things that I probably wouldn't have been able to ask those things out of her
Mm-hmm.
or force them out of her. She just needed to be able to sit with it for a minute, and then it came up. Just, yeah, it's fun to dive into the art and science of coaching. I'm a firm believer that you just get better at that by practicing it, but you got to practice it from a place of knowledge too. So yeah, building teaching the level 2 course was incredibly impactful for my own coaching abilities.
Yeah. Because I think originally when the board certification thing first came out, we were both a little skeptical. I'm like, what board to who? You know? And we had a great conversation. It will have come out before this comes out. So the episode we were talking with Leanne from National Board for Health and Wellness Coaches. I mean, what I love about this group, where again, originally I was just skeptical. I just thought it was an organization that decided that they wanted to be able to force their idea or their definition of what health coaching was. And it was going to take the creativity and the flexibility and the autonomy of health coaching away from me somehow, scarcity mindset, right? When in reality, what this group is doing is it's trying to elevate the role of health coaching broadly. And to do that, there does have to be some sort of parameter in place, right? Around really defining what coaching is and what coaches do. It doesn't mean that if you are in a state where you are legally allowed to design a fat loss meal plan or whatever, right? If you do that, that's completely fine, but that's not coaching. That's a different service that you provide that might be included with a coaching relationship if you're, whatever. So I want to put the plug in there. But at the end of the day, I think one of the benefits that this organization is doing is it's helping to create an awareness about what coaching really is. Because I think otherwise for folks, it's hard to get their arms around what it is they're really charging people for.
Yeah.
Right? I don't charge people for knowledge or information. I answer all sorts of questions for free. I don't charge people for having a conversation about something that I learned that from somebody else, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not my information. But it's, what you're charging them for is time. Right. And the ability to take what you do know and help them use that information, translate what it really does mean to them specifically, and then co-create with them what they're going to do with it. Mm-hmm. That's the difference, because information alone doesn't work. We know this, right? There wouldn't be millions of diet books out there yet, millions of people that just continue to get fatter and sicker if information was really just all we needed.
Going back to my client with the pastries, a different coach might have said, okay, let's come up with 10 things you can have instead of pastries. Let's come up with instead of pastry, I want you to drink a big glass of water. Instead of going for pastry, I want you to brush your teeth. Instead of pastry, like just deflecting away from the pastry. But as a coach, it's like, what I'm hearing is that you have a lot of fear about what's going to happen if you eat a pastry. And I think if you're up for it, client, we should just see what happens. And then you've got me to help you on the other end of that pastry. If it does descend into some kind of shame spiral binge behavior, I'm here for you. And then we have that information. But right. I feel like we can't proceed until we get this information. How does that sound to you? And the client recognized that she needed to do this with me. She's like, yeah, I want to do this with you because you're going to catch me if and when I fall, which by the way, I don't think she's going to fall.
Right.
She just moved to Andorra during a pandemic and I kind of lost track of her for 2 weeks, and we got back together today. She's like, you know what? I had a bad 2 weeks. We were moving. It was very stressful. Things were very weird here, but I got myself right back up on track. I know exactly what to do to get back on track. And I know that when she goes and has that pastry, it's going to be the same thing. She's going to surprise herself because she knows how to get back on track, because we worked together for 6 weeks on how to do that. But I can't just remove the pastry. The pastry is going to be this big pink elephant in the room. We have to just face it head on. Like, to me, that's what's so fun about coaching. Like, client, go eat a pastry. Who knew I was going to tell a client to go eat pastry, but we literally had to. That's where we were at in our coaching relationship. And I didn't want to just teach her ways to avoid the pastry. I wanted her to sort this pastry thing out herself, so she has that tool in her toolkit forever.
Yeah. Something you said there is so true, that I think makes look, the pastries aren't going away. Can't remove the pastry. All we can do, well, I take that back. I mean, I guess you can make the argument for just don't keep pastries in the house.
Right.
And if you happen to be out, whatever. But at the same time, those things are always going to be there. Clients are always going to be faced with circumstances where they're surrounded by cookies or ice cream or birthday cake or out to dinner.
Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Right. So
everyone's panicked about Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, for where we're recording right now, it's coming up, right, to Thanksgiving dinner. Well, who knows if it's going to be even a thing for you guys, but it's something that happens every year. I literally just signed on a client who said, should I wait till after Christmas? I said, I don't think you should wait till after Christmas. Let's do Christmas together. And then you'll know for next Christmas.
Oh, absolutely. Right. It's the biggest benefit, the biggest, I guess, tool we can provide our clients is to work through how to handle these situations and help them just experience what it feels like. We've talked about this before on other episodes, but these little mini failures, we call them, right? Where people might move down a path that they know doesn't serve them, but they're tempted to do it and they head down there. To your point, what did you learn? And how can we use what you learned to get back on track or make a different choice next time? Or maybe you don't. Maybe next time you just decide to do it and it's just something that comes up every once in a while and it's okay. You got to be able to learn to live with it.
Yeah.
Right. And still be able to feel successful and feel comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's what you eat and do most of the time that matters most.
Exactly. The thing that we, in level 2, just to kind of close the loop on that, what we teach and what's tested upon in the NBHWC board exam is client self-efficacy. That is the goal. That should be the goal of every coaching relationship. Give the client the confidence that they can go and do it on their own. Like, you want to be able to graduate them from your care. It doesn't matter to me if it's in 8 weeks or 8 years, but at some point they've developed self-efficacy, the knowledge they could do it on their own. That is the ultimate goal, I think.
Right. That's the holy grail. And one of the other things that I started to pay a lot more attention to as well is the concept of the stage of change my client is actually in. And honoring that, because there are some choices that just might be beyond them right now, because from where they are within this stage of change, they're just not there. And it's okay. And I think my role as the coach there is to help my client understand that it's okay and that there's nothing wrong with them. And you know what, where they are right now is exactly where they should be. And this is why, we were talking to somebody in a past episode where I was talking about just how important it is to know how you got to where you are. This is all the things that preceded you being here. And so you are here right now for all these reasons, and you're exactly where you should be right now. That's okay. But we want to get someplace else. So let's talk about how we can learn from where you've been to inform where we are now and leverage the strengths and the current knowledge that you have, plus anything that I can provide as a coach or resources that we can provide you to then take the next step to get you to that place where you think you should be for some reason. And try just getting that notion out of their heads. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, you're here. So let's move towards where you want to go, kind of one step at a time.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun what we get to do. It's really fun, especially when we kind of start to frame it around this nurturing relationship. And I think back to when I graduated nutrition school and I had to put together meal plans, and I just hated it so much. I was like, not only is this a pain in the butt, but I don't want to just be sitting around dispensing word vomit and meal plan vomit at my clients. I want to be with them and understand their lives, understand their strengths and their values and their experiences. I mean, that's you as the coach, we come with a pile of knowledge because we can't help ourselves. We just love to learn. And the client comes with their experience and we meet in the middle.
And it's invaluable, that experience. There's so much that you can learn from that, leverage from that. There are, there's nothing more heartbreaking than working with somebody who just feels like they've done nothing but fail, when in reality, there's so many little like nuggets of wisdom in that experience that they can move towards finally being more successful. One of the things I hear as the admissions director for our program from many people looking to go this road is, seemingly that this whole health coaching thing is like saturated somehow, that there's too many of us out there. And I'm like, oh my God, if you really think about the depth of the kind of conversations and relationships that we're addressing now, there's not nearly enough of us.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not churning and burning 200 clients at a time through our practice. It doesn't work that way. Yet there are millions and millions, probably billions of people on this planet that need us. There aren't nearly enough of us.
Yeah.
And, you don't have to know it all.
No.
You just have to care and listen and leverage your own knowledge and your own experience for the benefit of another person.
Yep.
Right?
No, that's a good final pep talk. I'll say probably 1 to 3 people a week will reach out to me in my Instagram DMs and say, hey, can you help me with XYZ? And it's like, I actually can't help you with that. I'm not the coach for that, but there's got to be one out there and I'll try to help them find one. So just understand, coaches, that the market's not saturated. It does seem saturated from where you're sitting, but it's very far from saturated.
Right. It just seems that way because in your little bubble, right, the people that you follow on Instagram or on Facebook or the people that you might gravitate to, that's the assumption, right? The assumption is this is what the rest of the world looks like.
Right.
It's not like that at all, right? That there is, if you think about the sheer number of doctors that are out there on the planet, and we're talking about how there aren't enough doctors, think we need like multiples more health coaches out there to attack this problem and get us on the road to wellness and then circling back so that the next time the killer virus comes along in 10 more years, we're in a better place.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, that was a good little annual recap, a crazy year. Oh my gosh. And I just on a parting note want to say, like, we started this kind of episode by joking like, oh, 2021 is going to be better. Well, is it going to be better? Because you can make it better. I feel like we're all waiting for it to be better, but also don't be afraid to make it better. That's
right. And start now.
Yeah.
You don't wait till 2021 to make the first step to make it a better year. Start now. Yeah. Right? Absolutely. Go get them.
Awesome. All right. Well, another year down and off we go with our 3rd year of Health Coach Radio.
Yeah, keep listening. We love it.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.
Well, if you've been listening at Health Coach Radio, you'll know that we're all about raising the voices of practicing health, fitness, and nutrition coaches, but most importantly, helping to further legitimize this exploding industry. Erin and I have disclosed often that we're on the faculty of the Primal Health Coach Institute, founded by none other than the health and wellness legend, Mark Sisson. And we've interviewed dozens of guests from just about every different health coaching program you can think of, and who practice in just about any conceivable way you can think of. But our allegiance is to the health coaching industry in its totality, first and foremost. It's our desire to continuously and unapologetically lift and promote this industry that nudged us to create this podcast for you in the first place. It's this same yearning that encouraged us to take the educational offering at our health coaching school to the next level. We are so proud to offer the Primal Health Coach Level 2 certification course, which, when combined with our primary course, the Primal Health Coach certification course, not only satisfies the educational requirements to sit for the board exam, but is specifically designed to teach advanced coaching mastery. You will work closely with a small class of peers through this 12-week, very intensive, live online classroom experience to learn how to execute a coaching relationship that is truly transformational. You'll learn and practice how to ask powerful questions, what it means to hold space for your clients, but most importantly, how to actually do it. You'll learn about the craft of motivational interviewing and the nuances of habit change, goal setting, and accountability, and how to nurture your client's own inner knowing, their intuition, and their own self-efficacy, so that they will graduate from your care a truly transformed person. You want a big, successful, powerful coaching practice. And maybe you're devouring our episodes looking for the silver bullet that's going to launch your business into the upper echelons. We've said it a million times and we'll say it again. Your coaching skills are what will make or break you and set you apart for success in this field. So if you're looking to level up your coaching skills and maybe dial up your credential and become a board-eligible health coach, look no further. You can learn more about PHCI's Level 2 program at primalhealthcoach.com/level 2. But if you would value talking to a real person about your path to being a masterful coach and perhaps a board certified coach, book some time with me personally. You can access my calendar at primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or just call me. You can reach me at 844-307-7662. Thank you for listening to Health Coach Radio, and I hope I get to talk to you soon.